Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to dive into today's topic with you because, well, it's a real game changer. We're unpacking how something that seems so straightforward, a national anthem, can actually become a massive proxy for deep, deep debates about national identity, linguistic sovereignty, and post-conflict healing. Specifically, we're zeroing in on the Sri Lankan national anthem and the intense conversation around singing it in both Sinhala and Tamil. We're going to break down exactly how these clashing perspectives play out over a deeply symbolic issue.
So let me hit you with this question right out of the gate. Can a song heal a divided nation? I know it sounds kind of poetic, right? But as we'll see today, we're actually digging into a highly complex geopolitical debate over language. An anthem isn't just a catchy melody. It's literally the ultimate verbal expression of a country's identity. When you start changing how that anthem is sung, you are touching the absolute nerve center of how a nation defines itself. Keep that in the back of your mind as we go through today's analysis.
Section 1. The Anthem Language Shift. A change in the status quo. Let's get right into it. So, Sinhala is the main language of Sri Lanka. And traditionally, just like in a lot of other countries, the national anthem has always been sung in that main language. That was the established baseline, the status quo. When you thought of the Sri Lankan anthem historically, you thought of it being sung exclusively in Sinhala. No questions asked. But then, we hit 2015. And I want to highlight this year because it's a massive pivot point. In 2015, the Yahapalana government stepped in and made a totally unprecedented decision. They took that long-standing tradition and completely disrupted it, sparking the exact debate we're unpacking right now.
So, what exactly did they do? Well, they introduced singing the national anthem in both Sinhala and Tamil. This was a huge, huge policy shift. Suddenly, the anthem wasn't just this monolingual symbol anymore. It was a bilingual performance. And, as you can imagine, this opened up a massive conversation about what's right, what's practical, and what a nation's language truly represents. To really get to the bottom of this, we need to look at two deeply contrasting perspectives.
Section 2. Dylan's Stance. The Monolingual Ideal.
Now, Dylan's core philosophy here is incredibly straightforward, and it's built on one singular ideal: one country, one language. According to Dylan, ideally, a country should just have one unifying language. And if you follow that logic, the ultimate symbol of that country, the national anthem, has to reflect that single shared language. So from his perspective, the anthem should only ever be sung in Sinhala.
And he doesn't mince words about it either. His conclusion is completely unambiguous. Allowing them to sing in Tamil is absolutely wrong. That's a direct quote from our source. There is literally no gray area for Dylan. Because this bilingual shift violates that ideal of a one-language nation, the 2015 policy is in his eyes a definitive mistake. It's a purely idealistic stance, focusing strictly on linguistic uniformity as the ultimate goal.
Section 3. The 30-year context. Historical friction. Now let's pivot to Akash. His opening thought provides a massive contrast right away. There is no right and wrong in anything. Instantly, you can see how different this approach is. Akash is viewing this issue through a much more complex, messy lens. He's directly challenging Dylan's idea that allowing Tamil is absolutely wrong. For Akash, you just can't boil this down to simple black and white moral judgments. And the reason for all that complexity? Well, it all comes down to history.
We really have to emphasize the gravity of the historical context here. For 30 years, a set of Tamils fought for a separate country. 3 decades of conflict deeply, deeply fractured the nation. You absolutely cannot look at the language of a national anthem without looking through the lens of those 30 years of civil war. It's the inescapable backdrop to literally every political and cultural decision in Sri Lanka. And as Akash points out, yes, that 30-year fight ended in military defeat for those seeking a separate state. But, and this is absolutely crucial, the idea of a separate state is still lingering in some of their minds. The physical war might be over, sure, but the ideological and emotional divides, they are still very volatile. We're looking at an incredibly fragile post-conflict environment here.
Section 4. Akash's Stance. A Pragmatic Compromise. So what's really fascinating here is that Akash actually agrees with Dylan's core premise. He acknowledges that, yeah, ideally a single language probably does mean fewer conflicts. But then Akash brings in a heavy dose of reality. Creating that perfectly unified monolingual country, that is a really, really long way off. You can't just snap your fingers and erase 30 years of history overnight. Because of that reality, allowing the anthem in Tamil isn't seen as a defeat of the ideal. Akash calls it a big win for both parties. It's an olive branch in a society that is still trying to heal.
So the big takeaway here is that Akash views this bilingual anthem as an interim solution. It's not necessarily the final perfect ideal that Dylan is holding out for. Instead, it's a completely pragmatic, crucial stepping stone for a fractured nation. It's a way to manage those lingering divides while the country slowly, very slowly, works toward a more unified future.
Section 5. Idealism versus pragmatism. Lenses for national unity.
When we put these two ideas side by side, the contrast is super stark, isn't it? On one side, we have Dylan representing pure idealism. His whole focus is on the ultimate goal, one language unifying the state. Any deviation from that, like singing in Tamil, is fundamentally wrong to him. Then, on the flip side, we have Akash representing hard pragmatism. He actually accepts the monolingual ideal in theory, but argues that the historical reality of a 30-year conflict demands an interim solution. For him, the bilingual anthem is a necessary victory for national healing. It's just a brilliant comparison between what should be in a perfect world versus what must be in a recovering one.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Is a shared language really the only path to a shared identity? Dylan's strict idealism says yes, absolutely. But Akash's historical pragmatism suggests that sometimes acknowledging our differences is the only practical way we can actually stay together. It's a massive, powerful debate, and honestly, it extends way beyond the borders of Sri Lanka. I really hope this helped you visualize and unpack the deep layers behind this issue. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and keep asking those big questions.